if we were to focus our budget, we should focus on the young generation because it is the future of the country.
How can you even enjoy life if you can't even have enough to save?
For businesses, they seek more on that kind of assistance, like higher operational costs and then having to deal with salaries and higher turnovers. So that's what businesses, mainly SMEs, are seeking.
People want assistance, business wants incentives, we want better hospital, better schools, better public transport, higher wages, subsidies, retirement
Semua benda lah.
assistance.
Everything
we want.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. I'm Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Alina Koshi.
Now, this particular week, when it comes to economy, there are two very different pictures out there that's emerging, right? On one hand, Malaysia's economy is actually progressing quite strong. Growth is actually holding up, unemployment is low, and inflation is under control.
But look on it on the other side of the fence, right? Because on one hand, we're seeing all this good news, but there's another side where Malaysians are still feeling the squeeze.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, why go so far as to talk about Malaysians
in general?
I mean, we are all living from paycheck to paycheck. You know, they're saying kais pagi makan pagi, kais petang makan petang. You know, so whether it's the cost of food, housing, you know, healthcare, or even simply having enough at the end of the month to save for the future.
I mean, I understand where you're coming from now because a lot of people throw out all these big terms, right? These big income brackets, right? Like whether you're B40 ke, M40 ke, T20, T15, T1, T0.5, something like that. To some extent, all these income brackets, so whoever that falls under these, they have their own limitations or at least stretches. Even if we're like considered M40 here, but we are perhaps like, you know, B40 somewhere else, or T20 here, or T20 somewhere else, macam kat Kelantan, tapi we are actually B40 here.
No, we were B40 here in this state.
Yeah, but we are T20 in areas like Kelantan or Kedah. This week alone, there are two topics. If I can just highlight it further, one is about the EPF dividend having to be possibly tiered down, and the other is what we can expect for the budget 2027, right?
Let's put it this way. It is not just because we talk about EPF and savings and, you know, the tiered way of, you know, trying to get the ones with the smaller savings to catch up with the ones with the bigger savings. I mean, that's generally in a nutshell. But, you know, the bigger issue is simply this, and I think it's also tied to the budget as well. Malaysians are simply not earning enough, hence they are not contributing enough to build a comfortable nest egg, right?
Nest egg, yep.
Yeah.
And I think before we go into deeper, let's just introduce our guests here on set because I want to continue the discussion on that, the wages, and how we can actually expand that into how the government is able to assist the public at large, right? First up, on the set, we have economist Dr. Ida Muhammad Yusof. Thank you so much, Dr. Ida from Putra Business School.
Thank you for inviting me today.
And also we have Business Times specialist writer Asila Jalil. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Right. So you listen to us bantering kan, all these possibilities, I mean, things that are supposed to happen, but how can we rationalize it? And of course, October is when Budget 2027 is expected to be tabled. But I want to start the discourse first by asking Asila this. With the EPF report, right, there's possible tiered dividends here. From your reports or from your talks with businesses, what sort of feedback are they giving, especially when it comes to investments?
Right. So basically, tiered dividend, the issue has been coming on and off for about maybe 5 years back because it was a recommendation actually by one of the research institute. So when it first came up, there were a lot of people who were against it because a tiered dividend means when you reach a certain threshold of savings, you might not get the same rate of dividend like everyone else who has lesser savings than you. So they were saying like recently when the issue came up again at a talk, economists are saying that could actually backfire EPF because it looks like you are penalizing those who actually have so much already saved. And people will start thinking, people who are already having this, who have reached the threshold maybe, and are not able to receive the same amount of dividend like those lesser than them, would start thinking maybe I should just withdraw my money because I'm not getting the same returns. And if I go out of EPF, I could make more. And it actually makes sense because it looks like it's not fair.
For the
for the
depositors
depositors at large, yes.
Okay. I know offset, Dr. Ida. We spoke about this a little bit, and you might have a differing opinion. Let's just share this across here on set.
Yeah.
So, in terms of tiered dividends, agree or don't agree? What are the possibilities?
I agree with the tiered dividend. Okay, there are two perspectives. First, I'm talking about myself. Okay, if I'm talking about myself, self-centered, I would say no. Because, of course, I want the same percentage of dividend, right? But when we do a policy, we have to think about other people at large. So when we are thinking about the people at large, the objective is actually to have the low income earners to have enough saving in the future. So on that note, I would agree that they have a tiered dividend whereby until a certain threshold, probably the lesser amount will have more dividend in terms of percentage. We are not talking about, I think, the amounts here. We are talking about the percentage, right? Because say that 5% of 100,000 is not the same as 5% of 1 million. Although it is 5% because it is percentage. So still, I'm not saying that these high income earners in which they have a lot of saving in EPF is being penalized. I don't see it that way. It is not penalizing. It's just that they have lesser return based on percentage. They still have a lot though. Probably they still have a lot as compared to the low income earners in that sense.
For instance, let's say, because let's say if the high income earners, they have, for instance, 150 million, and then that's like 2%. Tapi you compared to the low income earners, only have about 10,000, but they have 5%. Tapi 5% of 10,000 does not even reach the 1% of 150 million. Macam tu lah.
You are right.
Perspective, guys. Okay.
I mean, so in a nutshell, this tiered dividends is simply this, members with low savings gets a higher percentage on their, first 50,000? I'm not sure whether it's the first 50,000, but members with a massive savings, like maybe 1 million, would get a lower percentage on the excess amount. Now, this is actually, like we all agreed, it's to help the low income contributors build a safer retirement cushion. But my question is this, because you see, when you talk about people who are unable to build a reasonably sized nest egg, right? It seems like there's a whole load of other things that are tied to it. Wages have not increased. Cost of living is, it's crazy. So, in other words, are we treating the symptoms, right, rather than the underlying problem?
I think it is both. First, I agree with you. It is low income that leads to low saving in EPF because it's mandatory somehow, right? And second thing, even we have the saving in EPF, we have a provision to check it out to some
Correct.
extent. So I mean that's another issue though, because along the way before we achieve our retirement age, then we take out some of the savings. So I would say it is both issues, low income as well as, even though we have the savings, sometimes we take it out.
But maybe because they do take out, it's because, again, it's like a chicken and egg thing, right?
Not enough. Yeah?
Not enough money here. So you tend to dip into your savings to make ends meet. I mean, I think I don't assume that people want to just take out because they want to do a shopping spree somewhere or go for an expensive holiday. But the fact remains is that they are taking out of maybe desperation.
The commitments, to cover the commitments.
And to cover
of that
their
time.
commitments. So there's a whole load of things. Again, it feels like as though we're putting a Band-Aid on something that needs to be treated first, as opposed to, treating what is the actual issue.
The rewards lah.
Yeah.
Because especially when we talked about EPF kan, that's retirement saving. It's actually macam you work so hard and everything during your golden years, you obviously need to take a step back, have a bit of breather and enjoy life, right? Tapi how can you even enjoy life if you can't even have enough to save? Which I totally understand. And this is particularly more hard for self-employed people.
Yes.
Betul tak?
Yes.
So in terms of public awareness, right, especially when it comes to having to raise the retirement savings and look at EPF and just not like get muddled in the noise of like who gets the higher dividend, higher percentage of the dividend and who doesn't, how can we ensure that people actually start to understand when you contribute for retirement savings ni, it's actually a good step forward?
Yeah, I think all the time they have this awareness program, I believe, to everybody to start to save. But again, it is depending on the individuals because when we talk about saving, it depends on the income and the expenses. So we know that we have
Yeah.
certain income, but now what we can manage is the expenses. For example, handphone, mobile phone. You can choose the expensive one or you can choose the mid-tier price and so on. So
Yeah.
it's a life that we choose actually.
Correct.
It is very subjective rather than objective in this case.
I feel like you have any reaction to that as well?
Yeah, I think it also ties back to all these payment methods, I feel, because
Yeah.
the
Oh my God,
lifestyle,
that's true.
the lifestyle that we have now, it makes us think that we actually have money when we don't, maybe because there are installment payments, there are also 0% interest installments. So maybe people our age or younger think that I can always pay this again next time, or I can always pay this within 6 months. And you will somehow start accumulating all these debts,
yes.
and you will dig through your savings, and that would include your EPF because you have flexible account, and then you can just take it anytime you want. Some of us are not financially aware of our expenses, our financial situation. So I think one way to look at it is don't get involved in so much pay later, like installment payments. I think that's the biggest, I would say the biggest, how do you put it, challenge for young people now.
It's sort of like it's like not really, I mean it is a challenge, but at the same time you need it because how are you going to maintain a certain cash flow kan, to some extent lah,
Yes.
maybe I mean to like again people who have the option to use the BNPL as macam to shop is one, but some people really utilize BNPL to manage their cash flow just because
Yes.
the savings tak boleh nak accommodate the commitments. And commitments here can be anything, can be like your bill, your mortgage, your car loan, whatever, like servicing your loan, your insurance and all that.
But I
Education.
think it's also true that doctors, macam, there are so many options of phones. Why do you need the one that costs 5,000 when you can also get the same feature? Maybe the camera is not as good, but it only costs you 2,000. So it's your options. You have a lot now. So make that wise decision. So you have money for retirement later. Once you have a lot more money, then you can upgrade your gadgets. Gadgets is not something for you to show off. It's for you to maybe make more income, side income. That's how you should always look at it. Look at life.
I think it's also a little bit about having financial literacy. As part of, I think right now, financial literacy among Malaysians, doctor, what do you think? What do you think is the level of financial literacy these days, given the fact that, we are doing all these things to help Malaysians, or especially the lower income or those who are struggling, to have a footing when they finally do reach retirement age. But again, you were saying about how spending habits are not helping the buy now pay later thing. So what are your thoughts about financial literacy and how it plays a role as well?
I mean, of course, Elena, you are in the media
Yeah.
company. You have a very good opportunity to do all this. Okay, since I'm coming from university, so I can see this in the university as well. But of course, not everybody will go to that path, right? And they have this in the school as well. But again, probably when it is awareness at school, they tend to forget probably what they learn about financial literacy, or probably because the lifestyle is more important to them than these financial kind of issues that they need to manage. So again, it goes back to the individuals. Probably they have the knowledge, but somehow maybe lifestyle is more important to them. Yeah.
Doctor, I just want to go back to the whole EPF punya discussion kan, because I think whatever we've all been discussing is actually really great, because these are like the grounds that like set
Yes,
up for
yeah.
why we even debate about who gets the higher percentage kan. Tapi just for our audience knowledge as well, would you be able to understand what explain to us what basic savings, adequate savings, enhanced savings is all about? Like I'm not too sure within the EPF context, but at least when it comes to the economist punya perspective here, when it comes to having to have a good retirement sort of threshold too.
Yeah.
Again, from what you mentioned, Amalina, is there must be assumption, okay, basic or whatever. There must be assumption on that. So, from my perspective, from the economic perspective, the basic three things that we need in our life as a human being is food, shelter,
Shelter.
and clothing. Yeah, that's the basic three things. And if we want to extend a little bit more, it is education and healthcare.
So that would constitute as adequate. The basic would be the necessities. The health.
No.
No. So healthcare masuk dalam.
Actually, I'm not sure what is inside the basic or necessity under
Okay.
EPF because I need to see actually what is the
Faham.
assumption on that. I'm just speaking as in general. So, but all of these in terms of education and healthcare, usually the government have their policy on that, in which we do have right now. So, as far as food is concerned, of course, it depends on the individuals. They have to feed themselves, and government actually try their very best to make all the costs as much as possible low. That's why, Amalina mentioned about the CPI or Consumer Price Index on the inflation. When we measure inflation, of course, we are wondering, right? How do they measure inflation 2%, 3%? Okay, this is based on the Consumer Price Index. So, in the Consumer Price Index, they have a basket of goods. And in total, there are 13 basket of goods. That means not everything that we consume are actually in the basket of goods. That's why some people is saying, why is the inflation is so low, but I can feel, as Elena mentioned, that it's kind of the inflation seems high, but the
Yeah.
number shows low numbers because
Correct.
we need to understand only 13 category of goods and services are being included in the CPI calculation or inflation for that matter. So if you buy a motorcycle or cars, it's not included there. And other things as well. So, in fact, if I can go deeper in the Consumer Price Index, if we compare the raw materials, if we buy food, we buy the raw materials, the chicken, eggs, and so on. Actually, the inflation is low, below 1%. But when come to eat outside, that one, the inflation is more, which is
Yes.
2.2 to 3%. So again, we still eat, but depends whether you cook yourself, in which the raw materials, inflation is not that high. But if you eat outside, the inflation is high, which is 2 to 3%.
Actually, I'm having a deja vu moment here because Dr. Ida, we were also at the same sort of discourse here, right? Last year, especially when the budget 2026 was tabled, we spoke about the eating out aspect, right? Yeah, perhaps we're not experiencing any sort of like pinch if we eat or we do it ourselves, the DIY
Right.
aspect. But if we start to enjoy the services out there, then that's where we feel a little bit more stretched. And it's very interesting to me to know that even to this date, our CPI scoring or review does not factor in across the board. It's only a few goods.
Yeah, 13 categories.
Only 13
but
categories.
that
Only
is
13
how CPI is being calculated. So if we look into any other countries, they have different category. So it is being decided by Department of Statistics Malaysia what should be in the basket of goods. But usually it is the basic necessities. Okay, because motorcycle and car probably not under the basic necessities. Some people say yes, but yeah, maybe it is not being considered. Even rice, you have many types of rice. The one that included in the CPI is actually the normal rice, not the basmati, okay? That is quite a premium rice, so it is not included for that matter.
Okay, now we still want to go into the EPF solution or retirement or savings in terms
Yeah.
of how we can move around before we go into the larger topic, which is the budget 2027, which was the statement from the government has been presented and it's on their website. We talked about the minimum wage, kan? Tapi we haven't necessarily talked about how Malaysians simply do not have enough disposable income. The wage is one thing for us to have the active sort of spending, but the
Right.
disposable income is actually where we grow our funds and our wealth. And that's the adding macam disposable income tu sebenarnya retirement is one thing lah. But a lot of people are saying that you have to have 2-3 jobs on the side just to have that passive sort of income. Macam mana, doktor? Do you think it's because we are not trained to macam achieve disposable income?
I believe that disposable income coming back to the income we get and the expenses we have is coming back on that. So if you have a lot of commitment, as you mentioned, paying the loans and so on, definitely you have very less disposable income for the saving. So, but of course, this is a very generous statement. For those who are in the lower level income, they really cannot afford it because their salary probably just enough to buy food or certain things. I mean, of course, every level is not the same. I mean, income is not the same. If you are looking into the lowest level of income category, probably to have something, some percentage on saving is really unmanageable for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just would like to cover basic needs so far.
Tapi what does it mean when they say GLIC and GLCs have adopted the 3,000 whatever living minimum wage? Have you heard of this?
Yes,
What does this mean?
indeed. Means the minimum wage is 3,100. But mind you, I'm not sure whether it is minimum. The graduates are also receiving that, which to me is low though.
For the GLCs and
yes,
GLIC
yes.
lah.
No,
I
but
thought
that
the GLC should
more lah.
pay more for the graduates. They pay the graduates along that line as well.
because I think they take their cue from the minimum wage,
Which
that
is
has been said
1,700.
1,700. I mean, let's face it, lah. In today's time, 1,700. How far does it take you?
Yeah.
You know, and then you're talking about GLC, who is supposed to be able to give,
More.
a more substantial salary is just 3,001. I mean,
Yeah. Asila, any thoughts and reactions, especially when you speak with BNM policy-wise? Ada tak diorang macam do some suggestions?
I guess in my point of view, 1,700 minimum wage is sometimes the expenses that we make. It's, and
I think our expenses, I think
it's our
more than that.
expenses. Yeah, exactly. So there's no savings at all. And everything ties back to salary, right? The main thing that should be addressed is the minimum wage. Like maybe there's a way that we could have it slightly more higher because cost is rising. You can't survive in KL with 1,700 a month if that's all you get. And that's the minimum wage because some companies or some employers do pay lower than that, like 1,000, 1,001. And I don't know how they are so out of touch because we're all living in the same country, but maybe because they get paid more, so they get more options. But those who are paid less, they don't have options. Yeah.
I think the out of touch ones are the ones that where we are T20. In the states that where we are considered T20.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh my God. Okay, anyway, we want to segue into the budget 2027 because apparently, I mean, because we're still on wages, right? The budget 2027 that was, meaning the pre-budget statement, it also says that sustainable wage growth also needs to come through productivity gains with more industry-led sort of expansion like TVET, apprenticeships, reskilling, AI, digital skills, all that like fluff lah, right? But we've been talking about the issue of productivity for how long now, Doctor? How can we actually ensure that the productivity that we have been generating, because to be fair, we just said the GDP has grown. And by right, productivity grow lah. Tapi kenapa minimum wage ni still suppressed? Macam tak tally kan?
So when they measure productivity at the country level, it's actually GDP divided by number of employees for that matter, or workers, right? So it's very much monetary in nature. But in fact, we can also talk about productivity which is non-monetary. For example, the health of the employee contributed to the productivity of the person or the employee. So in this case, if a majority or all the employee are actually in a very good health, it can be physically or mentally, means they can contribute, they can be productive. So when the workers are productive, the company is productive. When many companies are productive, the country is going to be productive. So I can see this productivity thing with two aspects. The monetary aspect, in which they are talking about how much they contribute, how much is being created divided by the number of employees. And the other part is actually the productivity from the non-monetary side. So it can be both. Because when I say it is non-monetary, for example, health, it contributes to the productivity of the country and the nation, because it can also give pressure to the healthcare industry. For the company, it can give pressure to the healthcare costs. So if you can tackle from the very beginning or the source of the issues, I think it can help in the long term rather than taking it from the short term only.
I mean, it's interesting how our discussion has progressed, right? Because we talked about
Yeah.
EPF, retirement savings, and now going into productivity, and then productivity having to consider basically the two prongs here, right? The employees and employers, and whether or not the employers are also able to motivate the whatever to produce or whatever lah, the productivity, to generate more productivity. Tapi the opportunities must also be fair as well, for not just one divide. It has to
Yes,
be
for the
across
employees to thrive.
Yeah.
Again, it's a chicken and egg thing, because you still need wage earners to be productive, and if you're not giving them enough remuneration for them to thrive, then productivity would probably inevitably go down, right? And again, it's a circular thing. It affects everything else. So you want high productivity, and high productivity equals to, maybe the cost of, incomes being increased, but at the same time, you don't increase, and then you want high productivity. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Dr. Ida,
quandary.
because we're talking about this, and then we're talking about the basically budget 2027
Yeah.
is about to be tabled, right? So there's a lot of hopes and wishes and aspirations here. I'm going to start with myself, especially when it comes to what I hope to see the budget would entail among a lot of all these like clauses and points, sub points. I would like to see more attention towards the aging nation, or at least those who, are actively or passively caring for this population. And I believe I'm not the only one who likes or wants to see something in this, because we always talk about, we are aging population by 2030 or something like that, we will reach a full aging retirement. But we also know that the fertility rate has dropped, and it's beyond replacing. Beyond replacing whatever the current generation is. So that's very concerning. And you and I, everyone here, we're like a sandwich generation of sorts, because we have the older population punya burden. I don't say burden lah, but apa kata, weight. But we also have our own expectations, and later on, if we have kids, that's going to be a bit tough.
As we age, and we are also maybe in time to come, whether it's nearer for some of us or further for others, we are also going to move into that aging population, right? And I completely agree with you that not much focus has been given to those in that category. Maybe retirement age, we should look into that, whether that is something, the government can see probably increasing the retirement age, for example, so that people would still be able to earn an income, because we are all talking about EPF and savings and, income not sufficient. But as we get older, what's going to happen to those who reach retirement age and who are not able, who need a job to fend for themselves? Some of us need to keep working. Not all of us have $1 million in our account, right?
Dr. Ida?
Yeah, I think the government in 13 Malaysia plan has talked about this aging population, that they know it already, based on the data. They have planned for it. But coming back to what Elena mentioned, I tend to agree that now our retirement age is 60. I personally would not agree with increasing the retirement age as of now. You know why? Because some of the workers are actually not fit to work due to their health conditions. So if we extend the retirement age to 65, for example, some of the organization have to carry
That weight. Yeah.
that weight, and at that age, their salary is high already, and they are not productive anymore. So to me, whoever after the retirement age, they can still work, they can still contribute, they can still be productive, but not as full time. They can work part time. All right, so that's what we can learn. I mean, we can learn from the country like Japan. They are already aging nation in this world. They have many people who are at the age of hundreds and so on. But if you go to Japan, I mean, I'm quite surprised. If you walk in Tokyo, such a busy city, crossing the road, waiting for the traffic light, there are very old women, oh, bongkok tiga lah, so to speak, kan, still with their stick going to cross the road. Deep in my heart, in Malaysia, probably I will not see this. Probably the old people in Malaysia already in the wheelchair, but they are not. They're still working in the middle of city. They're still walking, and some of them still working in the restaurants. Sometimes I feel quite uncomfortable as well, because the one who served me actually older, much older than me, like my
Cultural
mom.
shock.
So, but it reflects on me, in which I would say, oh, probably this is why they have such a situation, although their age is has been, aging, but they're still active. So what I mean to say is Malaysian also probably would maybe learn something from the Japanese lifestyle, in which they are still active, even though their age probably 80 or 90. But of course, they take care of their health,
I mean,
for that matter.
I mean, yes, I agree to a certain degree that, as you get older, health issues tend to come forth. Maybe looking into reskilling, upskilling, I I I probably kind of agree to disagree, because I feel that if they're able to work, extend their working lives, and a lot of things that we can look into, because at the end of the day, we cannot leave aside this issue, because like you said, we are an aging nation, right? We are going to get a lot of people who are going to go into this unprepared, with inadequate savings, despite your tears and your whatever, people who are already now stepping into retirement with inadequate savings.
I want
So,
to clarify also, like, what I would love to see more in the budget in terms of the aging nation is more of like the assisted care aspect, not having to
yes.
raise the
Yeah.
retirement age. I mean, I think there's a lot of debate there, and love all the opinions that are thrown out here, because I think it gives depth. But yeah, I'm also afraid that if we push people to work, then it will create another productivity sort of like conundrum, right? But then
Right.
the aspect of like, okay, retirement savings is one thing, but retirement safety is another. Like the assisted living. I mean, the care or the hospice of, like, say, kalau if you are
Not just
sakit.
like retirement homes for that
Yeah,
matter,
exactly.
right?
Macam right now, it's just literally, it's like, it's so concerning, or at least a bit morbid, to think that you've lived your life for decades, and the only option for you, if you don't have family, even if you have family,
It's an old
that
folks
is
home
an
or
old folks home
something.
yang it's like a communal living, but not communal. If you understand what I'm trying to say, and then if you want something that's more of like you see in Hollywood, you have like a pool or clubhouse or whatever, then that
Like
comes with
doing
cost.
Tai Chi together, and those
Tennis
Yeah,
court.
that comes with costs. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, let's get Asila's perspective, and then we go back to Dr. Ida.
Right. For me, just now you mentioned like aging nation, but low fertility rate. So there's this gap in between. And what I want in budget 13, actually, as a mother myself, maybe something that helps with working moms or working parents. Like childcare is expensive, so maybe that's why people don't want to have more kids, and hence why low fertility rate, no kids running around anymore. Something that would make career oriented parents find it enjoyable and easy to have kids in this economy.
Right, and not just to give up one, sacrifice one to enjoy the other.
Like sometimes you would
Right.
see moms just leaving their career, like they could be a lawyer, accountant, anything, like, and they have to give it up because they want to raise a kid. Like, that's my child, So but that means that household is running on a single income, and that's hard. So in budget, maybe something that would cater to that. I know there are a lot of initiatives, but that's also one thing that is lacking is communication. Like, sometimes someone like myself or my husband, we don't know what is actually being given to us, like what is out there. So a better communication
Yeah.
for For this group, yeah.
Yeah. So, doctor, going back to that, right? Budget 2026, because budget 2027 is like we know what's to come, but we have to
Yeah.
see the devil's in the detail at the end of the day. But we can benchmark against like the 2026. What do you see as being successful? What do you see as being low when it comes to the execution?
I totally agree to what Hasila mentioned. The help for this group of children in which after the childbirth towards the primary school, because government has put a lot of effort. I must say it is a good effort from primary school, secondary school. That is good already. What is missing is actually after the childbirth towards the kindergarten. That group of age is actually. Need to be taken into consideration because this is a very important age for a child. And as what you mentioned, that the help for the young mothers is very important because I know that the government has this kemas and so on, but it's not enough. Definitely, it is a good one. I must say it is a good one, but it's always not enough. And when you go to the private, oh my, it can be what? So maybe, definitely 5 to 1,000 a month per child.
Very
No,
costly,
that's very important, I think, to be looked into. I think in a previous discussion, of course not in this podcast, I also talk about this for the government to look into the age of after birth towards the primary school, the childcare for that matter. Because if you want the mother to go to work to contribute to the economy, because they are capable, they're all graduates. But they have this dilemma on the childcare. But if you can see the benchmark of other countries, some countries they have this government childcare center. In our case, we don't have childcare center by the government. We have kindergarten.
Yes.
Maybe 4 years old, right?
Yeah.
But before that, we don't.
We don't.
But there's some other country in which they have childcare center actually.
Yes.
So I think New York mayor is also considering that, for their for New York for that matter. So
They're the outcoming generation, so why don't we focus on them as well? Yeah.
frankly speaking, because I'm in the older generation, if we were to focus our budget, we should focus on the young generation because it is the future of the
Yes.
country. For me,
Understood.
I'm the sunset. I'm in the sunset though. My productivity is lowered. Why should we focus so much of the budget? To me, I'm going off this world already. I mean, to me,
That's
we
one
should
way of
focus
putting
on the young kids. They are the generation.
Yeah.
They are the future of this country. If I can say that at gross lah.
Okay.
But-
I mean, I totally get it lah. We have to talk about the young generation. Tapi realistically speaking, because a lot of people who are going to be tuning into the budget is business. Betul tak?
Yes. I mean, speaking about business lah, from a business perspective, Asla, how would you assess budget 2026? I mean, does it give businesses, do you think it gives businesses greater certainty and support investment, or are there areas where companies are still waiting to see some meaningful change?
I think from what I gathered lah, macam when the budget was announced, everyone was you can't please everyone. So there was quarters that were satisfied, but there were quarters that are small. But then everyone was thrown away by everything when the Middle East conflict happened. So whatever you have in plans for the year is just not happening. I guess for businesses, they seek more on that kind of assistance, like higher operational costs and then having to deal with salaries and higher turnovers. So that's what businesses, mainly SMEs, are seeking this budget. Yeah.
But what do you think they're looking for in this coming budget that they didn't get from the previous 2026?
It's hard to say. They have a lot to cover, really. SMEs
Yeah.
they carry a lot of burden for being so small, not much capital. And for now, they're still in the cautious mode, wait and see approach, because we don't know how maybe how worse it could get or how better the things would unfold for them. So more of the SMEs that I speak to is it's always about cost, high operational costs, high operating costs.
operational
Yeah.
costs.
Mm-mm.
Right.
I mean, we have less than 10 minutes, but I do want to get more punch in this particular discourse, especially when it comes to the budget 2027. I think, not to say that it's not punchy enough, but biasalah, especially when it comes to belanjawan, budget 27,
Yeah.
2027 budget, however term you want to describe it. I think a lot of people are actually looking at whether or not the coming year would be a prospectful year, especially as we head into GE 16.
Yes.
This budget is the aspiration of the present administration
Correct.
going into that as a lead up. But we don't want one budget to be just thrown out and us having to rationalize, and then later on having to rationalize another budget. But itu is out of our control lah. But if let's say we're speaking to our, like say, politicians at large, right, Dr. Ida, if they're looking at whatever manifesto or whatever budget they're tabling, apart from the younger generation, that they need to focus on, what other areas, especially when it comes to maybe, I don't know, FDIs ke, infrastructure ke. I know TVET was a big part of last year as well, education tu. Tapi ada orang cakap healthcare should now be focused because healthcare punya budget cuts banyak apparently. So yeah.
Okay, I want to bring one types of economy in which we call it low altitude economy.
Right.
It means we are talking about some drones or these taxis in which they cover about 1,000 meters or 1 kilometer above the ground. Okay, so it is one new economic potential. Low altitude economy. So we can carry goods, we can carry human being, right? But of course, we don't have it now. But in this world, China, I think, has been doing it. And a couple of months ago, the Ministry of Transport has announced the plan. So I think what government needs to do is actually to look into the regulations, because we need to amend the regulation first, then we can allow all this air taxi or whatever to come in, right? So because to answer your question just now, Amalina, probably we are going to focus in this low altitude economy because this is something new, and Southeast Asian nation, if we can be the first, we can have this first advantage. Okay, we can have a first mover advantage, so to speak, because once we can have that business for Malaysia, we can have for Southeast Asian for that matter. So you need to be fast. So in the coming budget, I think I would like to see that initiative towards the low altitude economy, because this is something new in which we can venture into. And it also related to this TVET thing, because we can see some opportunity in terms of work for people who are probably now become drone pilot. You know, they can train on that, and probably they are engineers on that, for example, or we can manufacture all these drones. For example, it's either to carry goods or carry human being. So it is a new economy in itself, and I would like to see that happening in the future. Of course, the plan is already there under the Ministry of Transport.
One thing that SMEs are also talking about now is AI and automation.
Right.
You need all of it, but what for? Sometimes you wonder, I'm just a small company. Do I need all of this new AI, new automation that everyone is talking about? So some of them are asking for maybe grants on adopting AI to make their operations more effective. Some wants a clearer picture of what kind of automation do they actually need specific to their operations. Yeah, because it's the talk of the town. Everyone wants AI in every aspect of their life.
True, and then it's also for them to progress into the next industrial sort of revolution or manufacturing sort of age, right? What about MSMEs though? Do you know anything that is like expected out of that? Because we do know a lot of, I think more than 80%, 90%, I don't know. I might get my statistics wrong, but our economy is actually driven by MSMEs a lot. These are your entrepreneurs at home, but like your online punya live shopping punya deliveries ni kan. Yeah. Anything tak from MSMEs?
What I know, basically, some of them said they want more upskilling programs. So they're not just
making ends meet, yang guys pagi makan pagi, guys petang makan petang.
Upskilling, maybe, let's say you're a live content creator, maybe something, what else can you do with that, you know, in terms of content creating, or maybe something that off TikTok, but I don't know, what else could give me more income? So they want that kind of programs that could actually upskill them in the thing that they specialize in.
Interesting.
I think more relevant programs like.
Yeah, when you're a content creator, then you can also be a content strategist. Then being a content strategist, you can also have your art house atau creative agency.
Right.
Sebegitulah. Okay,
Because sometimes they don't have a clear picture of where this could go. You know,
It's just there lah. Doctor?
Yeah,
MSF.
I think we need to give them opportunity because although we have this HRDF, Human Resource Development Fund, but of course that is for the people who are being employed by a company. What about the entrepreneurs, the small entrepreneurs or micro entrepreneurs in which they are not in that? So there must be an avenue for them to be reached out by the agency, for example. Interesting. I think that group we should not left
Right,
them
yeah.
alone, you know. Somehow or other we need to reach that out. Probably they are not able to reach the agency, but the agency need to reach them.
Yeah.
It should be the other way around for that matter.
One last block, macam kind of before we truly end the show, is that
Right.
it's very interesting that the government has also expressed that for whatever budget that is going to be presented, it should reflect the pressing imperatives of what's happening globally with the energy crisis. Because we talk about all this domestically, how to spur economic growth and stuff like that, but I think when the closure of the Strait of Hormuz happened, it really entailed to us macam how the oil prices can affect other things as well. Dia macam domino effect in that sense, right? So budget 2027 pun, I mean, we don't know to what extent it will help support the households, but Dr. Ida, if let's say we experience another macam economic shock wave ataupun trade shock wave like that is beyond our control, the first point of focus when it comes to security, where should the government step in? Should it be through cash aids? Should it be through the rationalization of subsidy that we've experienced now, or apa?
My government doesn't have unlimited
Funds.
pools of funds because
Yeah.
people want assistance, business wants incentives, we want better hospital, better schools, better public transport, higher wages, subsidies, retirement
Semua benda lah.
assistance.
Everything lah.
Everything we want. Somebody has to
If
pay.
you ask me regarding the RON 95, right? If government can give me free, I'm of course happier, right?
Right.
What we mean to say, like Elena mentioned, this has a limit. So what I want to say is that when the government say if there is issues, global issues like energy issues, we have to take the responsibility as well. What do I mean by taking responsibility? If the price of oil is high, we need to pay high as well. How can we pay low? Because the government has to put a lot of subsidy. The moment we have a lot of subsidy, it takes out the money, as we mentioned before. If our income is high, doesn't matter. Now we are in deficit situation. So our expenses is already more than our income. And what we resort to? We resort to loans probably, which is not good. So he's paying the loan. Probably not our generation is paying the loan. The future generations is paying the loan. So the question is it fair, for us to make a decision in which it will be borne by other generations? Probably not one generation, probably two generations. So I think we need to think about it. I concur with what Elena mentioned.
I think we've gone through a lot, the EPF, how it entails with how we look at even savings and higher returns. I mean, the whole topic is about higher returns. We want more. But I think the other part of the discourse that we also highlighted is in terms of self-restraint, right? And how you choose the lifestyle that you want. What gives you peace and contentment at that particular time. You also have to look at the other elements, the surrounding elements juga, kan? Perhaps the discussion should actually turn into, instead of us looking at things individualistically, we should look at it as like a communal, collective sort of shared responsibility, shared growth, shared prosperity. And then I hope that the budget 2027 will be able to express that.
I mean, the basic thing is how do we turn good economic numbers into better everyday lives?
Yes. True.
Yalah,
That's the thing.
Betul. Not just having to see and say, oh, we've progressed somewhere, but why are we still experiencing the
That's
pinch?
the thing, like they say, it's not being reflected on the ground. I see all these numbers, but what do I get,
Of course, you're the
Correct.
business time specialist writer, right? You see numbers every day. But how does it actually translate to your everyday
How do
Malaysian?
we translate? We want better wages, better jobs, affordable living, better retirement protection, better healthcare, better education, better everything, right? But if the economy is doing so well, why aren't ordinary Malaysians feeling better off?
Yeah.
That is the question that I think we spend a good portion of today's episode discussing.
And of course, for that particular point, when we're going to discuss it is in the next episode. Unfortunately, for everyone here at home and on set, this is the end of the show. If you like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to also turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. You'll not only get NSA Beyond the Headlines update, other NSC Online's news reports will be delivered to you. Now, of course, follow us on our socials. We're everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, as well as TikTok. I'd like to thank our guest, Dr. Ida Muhammad Yassin. Thank you so much, Dr. Ida.
Welcome.
And I'd like to thank Business Times specialist writer Asila Jalil. Thank you for joining
No
us.
worries. Thank you for having me.
And thank you again, everybody. We'll see you next time. I'm Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Melina Koshi. Thank you. And see you next episode.